Hi there, this is Crystal, and I'm back with my Thankful 30 album for 2018. It's currently a Saturday night, and I have a glass of wine and a nice scented candle going, and I am just relaxing in my craft room trying to get some old projects done. So if you have been following along, I am currently on day 6 of my album. I still have to do my title page. I did find this journal card that I just kind of tacked down really lightly, thinking maybe I'll use that, but I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna have to come back to that. So I am currently on day 6. I plan to do probably another 5 days in this video before it will probably get too long. So I'm gonna put you on fast forward and get started.
In case you haven't already watched my first video in this series, so days 1 through 5, I just wanted to let you know that I actually filmed this last year after November. I think it must have been in December sometime. I don't know when else it would have been last year after November. So it's been a while since I've done this album, but I'm doing this voiceover now in current time, just before I get these videos posted. So I just wanted to let you know, I'm not going to remember exactly, what my motivations were at the time, but I will do my best to fill you in on what I can remember. So I'm working on day 6 right now. Day 6 was all about my partner Jesse and how grateful I am to have him in my life. And the tag that I have for this day is vellum. So I have already punched out the circle number that is from the Reset Girls The Little Things collection from last year. And all of that will be linked down below. Everything that I could find that's still available is linked down below. So I've added the number to the vellum label, or to the tag, and right now I'm working on a layer cluster by my photo. So I have a little piece from the infamous shoebox that I am going to add behind my photo. That is something I stamped a long time ago on just some cardstock and had fussy cut out and was just in the box waiting to be used. And I'm going to layer one of these little cork circles. I think those are from Studio Calico. And I'm also going to add one of these puffy hearts from Allie Edwards from the Give Story Kit. But I need it to sit on top of that cork circle, so I went to find a foam square, but the ones that I found first were too big. It stuck out too much, so I went to find some that weren't quite as thick and found these little circle ones. So I'm just going to add one to one side of the heart and then overlap it with that cork circle just a little bit, just to give some layers to that side of the page. I'm trying to keep things mostly flat in this album because I know it's going to be very thick. There are 30 pages, 30 days to document. So I'm trying to keep it fairly flat, but every once in a while I do give it a little bit of dimension. I am still adding lots of texture through tearing and having torn edges and staples and things like that, just to keep it from looking too terribly flat. So to cover the back side of the number circle label that I added to the tag, I added just another punch circle and another cork circle on top of that. And now I'm going through my little bin of bits and pieces from the shoebox and trying to find something to add behind this journal card. And I end up grabbing the Shine On sticker sheet from Amy Tangerine. I was able to find this, so it is linked down below. These are just craft stickers that have white and gold and black printing on them. They work really well for fall, so I end up using them throughout this album. So I added a flower behind my journal card and a few leaves here and there, and then I'm ready to move on to day 7. So day 7 is all about my house and how thankful I am to have this place to live. And we actually bought this house several years ago, many years ago. We lived in it for a little while, and then we moved away, and then we moved back. So it was nice to have this place to come to when we needed a place in this location. We didn't have to try and find someplace new. So, we're also remodeling. So we were remodeling at this time last year. We're still remodeling. It seems to be a never-ending process. So I was talking about that as well. in my journaling. And I started to use some puffy stickers. These are from A Case of the Bloss from Pink Fresh Studio. There was little houses and things that were relevant to being at home. So I pulled those in. I did link those down below as well. And then I just decided that it needed a little something extra, so I found this paper. I think this is an Amy Tangerine paper from one of the 6x6 paper pads, and it has houses on it that they look fairly similar to that little puffy sticker, so I decided just to add a little strip of it above my photo. And I'll also add one next to my journal card, and I've torn that edge again just to give the page a little bit more texture without it being too bulky, so that just adds a little bit of interest. And then I got it too low on the card, so I had to move it up a bit to fit that little cluster at the bottom where I have the house and just a little square of paper that's from the Thankful 30. It actually had a different name last year, but I've got it linked down below, from Featurecraft. It's where all of the journal cards came from, and there are some other cards and embellishments in that kit as well. So that's what that little square of grid paper is from. And I think that's just about it. Oh no, I decided to add a little bit more texture. I did grab a little die cut that says Full of Thanks. That's from that same Featurecraft kit from last year. And I did look through the other die cuts, but I couldn't find anything, so I decided to look through my enamel dots and see if I could find some that would work on this page. I start by pulling some that are pink, because the tag that I have for my number label for this day has some pink flowers on it, and there really isn't any other pink in this spread, so I thought it might be nice to bring in that pink and tie in those three different papers together with some pink enamel dots. So I tried that. I sprinkled them around both pages, but it just didn't look right to me. It stood out too much and drew your eye too much away from the rest of the page. So I take all of those pink ones off, and I decide to go with the green ones that are on this sheet. And I think that this is a set from My Mind's Eye, but I'm not entirely sure. It's definitely an older set of enamel dots. So yeah, I'm pulling off all the pink ones and just adding the green ones from that set. But I was one short, and normally I would have just left it without it, but when I pulled up the pink one, it left a adhesive mark on the photo. So I had to go through and search for another one that would work. I end up finding one that's teal that matches the little Full of Thanks word strip that I added, and I add that one just to bring some more of that teal color onto the page. And then I can be done with day 7. So moving on to day 8. This one is about our Freshly deliveries. So part of our remodel was remodeling the kitchen. Thankfully, that part is mostly done now, and we have a usable kitchen. But for a long time, we really didn't. We had a microwave, we had a sink in our utility room, or laundry room, and that was pretty much it. That's what we were working with. So to make things easier on ourselves, we had a food delivery for several months, and that way we had good healthy meals. We weren't eating out all the time, or just eating frozen meals. These were fresh, they were gluten-free, which is important for me since I have celiac disease. And yeah, it was so nice to have these really tasty fresh meals without a lot of effort and without having to try and throw something together using a microwave and a laundry sink. So yeah, it was also fewer dishes to have to do as well, which was very nice. So I was very grateful that we were able to do that. Those meal delivery services aren't super cheap, so it was nice to have the luxury of having that available to us. So that is what today's gratitude is all about. I am cutting up a Webster's Pages free printable journal card, and I've got that link down below as well, so that is still available. It had a fork and spoon and knife, and then just these little kind of corner pieces, and I'm trimming out all of those, and a little phrase as well that said good eats. I trimmed out all of those, and I'm going to spread those across both pages of this spread. I'm going to add the corners to my photo, and then I'll add the word strip as well, and kind of tuck the fork underneath that, and then I'm going to bring the knife and spoon over to the other side where my journal card is, and I've already tucked a little piece of paper behind my journal card on the right side, that says dinner is served, and it was from a super, super old Smash Book paper pad. So these are just little paper pads that weren't quite 3x4. They're a bit smaller than that. And they had different journaling prompts and things like that. So I've literally had that for probably 10 years in my stash, I would guess. Yeah, so it's super old. It, again, was in the shoebox, so go figure. Yeah, but I was able to use the top part of that journal card and just tuck it under my journal card for this page and get it used up. And it worked really well with the colors on this page, so I was happy to have that on the page. So just adhering all of those little bits down, and then I think I will add just another paper circle behind my number on the tag. So I just searched through my scraps to find something that worked well with this page. I think I actually end up finding a scrap of the same paper I used on the right hand side, and I just punch a circle out of that, and I'll add it behind my number. And then I also add another little puffy heart sticker from A Beautiful Mess, from an old messy box. And then that's going to be it for this page. So then I will move on to day 9 once I get this page back in the album. I think I was trying to find something else to embellish it with, but I ended up just going with that puffy sticker and calling it good. Okay, so day 9 was all about reading. So the next page is going to be all about books and my love of reading, and how much I'm thankful to be able to have time to read. I was doing quite a bit of reading at this point, and I had worked it into my schedule, into my morning routine. So because I worked for a public library and the library didn't open until 9 o'clock, we were still getting up super early, and that way it gave us time in the morning to have a little bit of time for ourselves instead of just rushing out the door to get to work. So I had time in my morning to read, so I was doing quite a bit of reading, and that's what my gratitude for day 9 is all about. So I have a little journal card that's like a library card, one that they used to use in the front of books, and I've layered that behind my journaling. And then I also have some book page die cuts from vintage book pages, also from the shoebox. I've added one of those behind my photo. I think I'll end up moving that a little bit, but right now I'm using just a little scrap of pink paper to add to the tag with my number for the day on it, and I've used a Fisker's border punch with a notebook edge. That is also linked down below, just to give it, again, some more texture on this page. And I'm also adding another one of those rub-ons. These are stitch mark rub-ons that I picked up a long time ago from Joann. They were in the shoebox too, and I've been using them throughout this project. So I really like that they add some texture without, having to actually sew onto the page. Since most of these pages are double-sided, you can't really sew without it showing through the other side and ruining whatever you have on the other side of your page. So it's nice to have that same kind of look without the actual stitching. So I think I just stapled those two together with my gold staples and my gold stapler, and now I'm just trimming down my photo, and I'm going to actually use that book page die cut to kind of create like photo corners. So I trim it in half diagonally, and then I add one piece to each corner, like opposite corners of my photo, and it kind of gives it the appearance of photo corners, and I really like the way that looks. And then I decide it needs a little something else. It looks a little too plain still to me. There's that big blank at the bottom of my journal card, so I decide to grab a stamp set. This is a reading stamp set designed by One Little Bird for Studio Calico. I have it linked down below as well. And I'm going to add a stamp that says all the books to the bottom of my journal card. And I'm also going to add another stamp to my number tag that says good book, cozy nook. And then I'm also going to add another stamp to my photo. And I actually end up stamping it on vellum. So I'm grabbing a piece of vellum and I'm using Color Theory dye ink in Doc Brown. That's linked down below as well, which is not the best option for stamping on vellum. So I should have known better. I should have grabbed a different dye ink or let this vellum sit for longer, but I was in a hurry. I wanted to just get it down on the page. I smudged the first one, so I stamped it again, and I do let it sit for just a little bit, but not nearly long enough. I mean, if you're stamping on vellum, it's going to take a while to dry unless you're using StazOn. So I knew that. I should have known better, but I just push forward and keep working, let it sit for just a minute, not nearly long enough, and then I eventually go ahead and adhere it onto the bottom of my photo. Yeah, and in the process I smudge it a little bit, but not enough to have to redo it. I just end up leaving it. I even tried taking it, you'll see here in a second, I take it and kind of rub it on a piece of white paper to try and pull off some of the extra ink. See, I see it's still wet, it's getting on my fingers. I'm going to get that ink everywhere if I'm not careful, and I know this about myself. So I take a piece of white paper and try and kind of smudge off extra ink without smudging the stamp, which worked a little bit, but not good enough. I still end up smudging it. So I trim it down very carefully, trying to be super careful, and I add adhesive on it again, onto the back of it, trying to be super careful, and then I go to add it to the page and I rub my finger across it. Yeah, like, what was I thinking? So here's me checking out how bad the smudge is, seeing if I need to pull it up, and it's not bad enough to worry about, so I just leave it and call it good enough, and I'm gonna move on to day 10. So day 10 is all about our tradition. So we have a tradition here where we have Wednesday Italianos, and that just means on Wednesdays we eat Italian food, and whether that's eating out or more often eating at home, it's just fun. We play Dean Martin on the radio and light candles, and we usually have a glass of wine, and we just sit and actually sit at the table together and eat a meal, and it's just fun. And we usually cook the meal together as well. So that's what I'm talking about in this day's journaling, and I have a picture actually of one of our meals on a Wednesday, a little pasta dish. Actually, I think it's squash pasta, so zoodles instead of actual pasta, but anyway, it's still pasta, and that is what the picture is of, and I've decided to add some layers behind it. So I went through my washi and pulled out a few different rolls of washi that I thought would work for this spread, and I've ended up with one from Pinkfish Studio. I don't remember what collection that is from, but it just has the days of the weeks on it, and since I'm talking about Wednesday Italianos, that's I figured would work really well for this page. And to add to that, I've used just a couple strips of paper. So on the left-hand side where I have a white or a light colored background, I've added a dark strip of paper, and on the right-hand side where I have a dark colored background paper, I've added a light strip of paper, and that just kind of brings those two together, so it kind of mirrors both sides of the page. And then I've added just the strip of washi on top of that before adding my photo and journal card. And to keep things super simple, I just added another leaf from that Amy Tangerine Shine On sticker sheet behind my number, and then that's it for day 10. So there are some close-up photos coming up. You'll notice that there are a few extra bits on some of the pages. I remembered that I had a printable from Illustrated Faith, and I added a few bits from that on some of the pages. So that printable is still available, and it is linked down below as well in case you're curious. I did print it on vellum, and so you'll see there are little vellum embellishments throughout some of these pages. Okay, so that is it for days 6 through 10. I will be back tomorrow with days 11 through 15, so be sure to check that out. And if you haven't already seen days 1 through 6, I have that linked down below as well. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found some inspiration. This year's Thankful 30 kit is also linked down below, so be sure to go check that out if you haven't already. And if you did enjoy this video, I do appreciate a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here soon.